I am 21 years old, and my name is Isabella. Wow, I can't even begin to describe the experience of completing my third year in art college. To understand me, though, you must first understand my background. As a child, I was never really at home at my family's residence. It was always crystal evident to my parents, Tom and Sarah, that my older sister Emily was their prized possession. She's been a constant source of frustration for me, and I'm 4 years her senior. Emily seems to despise me from the moment I entered this world. She would be quite cruel to me, teasing me and breaking my toys. Who are my parents? Without batting an eye, they just remarked, "Oh, that's just how sisters are." But that wasn't the usual. At the age of 14, I developed a serious crush on a boy at my school. Jake was his name, and he was the most adorable thing I'd ever seen. I would secretly sketch portraits of him for hours on end, then tuck them under my mattress, certain that no one would ever find them. Emily, however, located them. Are you aware of her actions? She made sure everyone could see them by pinning them to the school bulletin board. The laughter, pointing, and whispering that greeted me as I walked into school that day are still vivid in my memory. It seemed as if the entire universe had come tumbling down on me. Isabella, I saw the drawings." Jake stammered as he approached me. "I don't like you that way, even if you're sweet and all." The day I went home, I sobbed. With tears falling from my eyes, I stormed into the kitchen, where my parents were cooking. I was embarrassed at school by Emily, Mom, and Dad. My private drawings were discovered by her aunt. Unfortunately, Emily strutted in with a smug grin before I had a chance to finish. "Oh, come on, Izzy," she exclaimed, utilizing the moniker that I despised. "It was just a bit of fun. Not my fault you can't take a joke." What did my parents do anyway? Their laughter filled the air. Indeed, they quarreled. My mom responded, "My darling, you really need to get a tough skin." She was crying as she spoke. "You are being overly sensitive, and it is not Emily's fault." I was elated when I received the acceptance letter from the art college for that reason. It was my escape from the continual humiliation and ridicule in that household. The only person who ever truly loved me was my grandma. She was the one who praised my artistic abilities and urged me to pursue them. She was adamant about covering my tuition after I received my acceptance. "Isabella, you're really gifted," she remarked, her eyes sparkling with enthusiasm. "Nobody has the right to tell you differently. The education you so well deserve is mine to secure." My entire education, including books, supplies, and a little more for living costs, was covered by her for 3 years. Then she became ill right before my last year of college. As I sat by her bedside, I clutched her fragile hand. "Isabella, my dear, I'm so proud of you," she continued, her kind eyes meeting mine. "My friend, you were destined for greatness." After that, she shifted her attention to my parents, who were positioned at the base of the bed. "Sarah, Tom, I need a pledge from you. Confess to me that you will cover Isabella's last year of school. It is imperative that she completes her degree." With serious nods, my parents agreed. "Certainly, Mom," my dad responded. "We promise." After 1 week, Grandma passed away. During her will reading, we learned that Mother had bequeathed her home to my parents and our jewelry collection to Emily and me. The diamond tiara was promptly seized by Emily. She declared, "I'll take this," on the spot. "Isabella is welcome to keep the ring. Jewelry isn't really her thing, is it, Izzy?" I remained silent. I wasn't a jewelry fan, and she was right. Consequently, I removed the diamond ring and placed it in the bank's secure vault. In college, I became friends quite fast. 2 individuals stood out. Marcus, a reserved man whose sculptures could leave you gasping for air, and Zoe, a punk rocker gifted with abstract art. The drama in my family was unimportant to them. They didn't think much of me beyond Isabella, the girl who had mad painting skills. Out of the blue, Zoe would say, "Hey, Bella," which was a moniker I really warmed up to. Downtown, there's a tattoo studio that needs a design artist. Submit an application. Initially, I was apprehensive. Knowing that I was employed by a tattoo parlor would cause my parents to lose their composure. However, I eventually figured out why it matters if they think I'm stupid. After that, I submitted my application. That caught me off guard. I was hired. I was told, "You're hired, kid." After the owner, a muscular man named Mike who had more tattoos than flesh, looked over my portfolio. I was able to provide for my family at last. Despite its diminutive size, it was rightfully mine. I was quite secretive with everyone else except for Emily and my parents. Oh my goodness, look at little Izzy. She's even making pictures for gangsters now. Emily's mocking voice could already be heard. She is so kind. I thrived in college. In an effort to live up to my grandmother's expectations, I dove headfirst into my studies. The work I did was well received by my teachers, and I even took home several minor prizes. Above all else, though, I felt content. Time passed so quickly that I was nearing the end of my third year before I realized it. A feeling of old fear crept into my belly as the summer vacation drew near. Home was my only option. I walked into mayhem as soon as I opened the door. A flurry of activity filled the living room as folks eagerly awaited something. Emily, who was holding a white frock and beaming, stood at the heart of it all. First, my mom saw me, saying, "Oh, Isabella," her smile wavered ever so slightly. "I've brought you home. We didn't anticipate your arrival at this hour." Horrified, I just stood there. Emily is becoming a bride. At what point? Tell me when this occurred. A smirk spread across Emily's face as she shifted her attention to me. "Oh, I thought someone told you." I suppose it must have passed us by because we've all been so preoccupied with getting ready. It was as if someone had punched me in the stomach. I called Mom's number, trembling with fear. I was wondering why I was not invited to the wedding. I was told the wrong date by Emily. A lengthy silence followed. Caller ID showed Dad's voice. "It was your sister's wish that you not be present, Isabella. She claimed you would sabotage her idyllic day. We decided it was for the best not to let you know." I was on the verge of becoming ill. "Why would you subject me to this? I'm also your daughter." "Don't pull any punches," Mom interjected. "It's not like you really wanted to be there anyway, right?" My entire body trembled with rage and pain as I ended the call. When I got home a few days later, I discovered that Emily had also gotten back from her honeymoon. She was huddled with Mom and Dad as I entered the living room. They were all perusing rental listings. Upon my throat clearing, their heads sprang up. "Please remember to pay my tuition," I whispered. "You promised to pay for my last year if I gave Emily the ring." Uncomfortably, Dad moved. "Actually, Isabella, we've decided to use that money as a down payment on Emily's apartment instead." It was as if everything had crumbled beneath my feet. "Despite your word, I am still waiting. Grandma heard your vow." "Plans change," Mom replied with a lack of concern. "More so, Emily requires it. You're capable of finding a solution, I have no doubt." The sound of Emily's continued mocking laughter made my fury boil. I grabbed a handful of her hair in an impulsive move before I even realized what I was doing. Everyone started yelling as soon as Emily let out a scream. His cheeks flushed with rage. Dad violently pulled me away. "Enough," he yelled out. "Isabella, get out of this house right now." I sprinted to my room, stuffed some garments into a bag, and slammed the front door shut behind me as I stormed out. I came to a realization as I walked out of the house, my chest tight with emotion and my eyes moist with tears. Once again, I was at Zoe's apartment, bereft of direction and spirit. I sobbed and stared at the walls of her guest room for days on end, seldom leaving the room. Even though Zoe did her utmost to console me, I remained inconsolable. In this fog of hopelessness, a week slipped away. My heart skipped a beat when I got a message one morning while mindlessly checking my inbox. "So happy for you. The annual art school competition has chosen you as the winner. A complete academic scholarship for your senior year is part of your award." The email was so unbelievable that I had to read it 3 times. After that, I screamed, which sent Zoe fleeing. My cheeks flushed with joy as I swung my phone towards her. I triumphed. It was my turn to win. I am capable of finishing my schoolwork. After reading the email, Zoe's eyes widened, and she embraced me with an intense, painful embrace. "Oh my God, Bella, this is amazing." A flicker of optimism returned to me after what seemed like an eternity. I don't need my parents' financial support to complete my degree. I could figure it out on my own. I dove headfirst into my coursework as soon as the new semester began. I hardly had time to dwell on the family drama between my classes and my part-time job at the tattoo parlor. As time went on, I began to feel better. I was hanging out with Jake, a classmate of mine who had a part-time job at a pawn shop. One day, he brought up something that piqued my interest while we were discussing our day. "You won't believe what happened during my shift today," he pointed out. The girl entered the room adorned with an incredibly stunning diamond necklace and ring. Surely it was worth a small fortune. A little beat skipped my heart. "What did she look like?" I asked in an attempt to sound nonchalant. A woman who sounded identical to Emily was portrayed by Jake. "Can you draw the jewelry for me?" My hands were slightly trembling as I inquired. Jake nodded and followed orders. My assumptions were validated as I observed him sketch. It was my grandmother's ring, and the necklace belonged to Emily, who had always boasted about it. "Jake, could you please provide me with the pawn shop's security footage?" I asked, my voice cracking with frustration. After what seemed like an eternity, Jake nodded in response to the desperate look in my eyes. "Okay, I'll see what I can do." Jake gave me a flash drive a few days down the road. "Here," he pointed out, "but you didn't get this for me, okay?" After quickly returning to my dorm room, I nodded in gratitude. My hands quivered as I nervously connected the drive and launched the video file. Emily appeared as bright as day as she relinquished the jewels. What followed, though, was absolutely shocking. An individual walked into view just as she pivoted to depart. Emily embraced him tightly and kissed him passionately. No, Richard wasn't it. With my heart racing, I drew nearer to the television. I was startled to see the man's small pivot. He was obvious to me. He was Emily's ex-boyfriend, the one our parents had forcibly ended her relationship with due to his ties to the criminal underworld. As my thoughts raced, I reclined. Emily was reportedly unfaithful to her husband and had pawned her valuable jewels, which included my grandmother's ring. Her ex-boyfriend had a criminal past. I wanted to share this film with my parents, Richard, and anybody else who had ever believed Emily's falsehoods the second it came out. On the other hand, I was hesitant. This was a major matter, too important to be handled hastily. After a few months had gone, I decided to finally put the family drama in the past. Suddenly, my phone started ringing. Lisa, my mom's sister, was my aunt. "Isabella, darling, I have wonderful news," she exclaimed with joy, her voice quivering with anticipation. "Honey, your sis is expecting a baby. Are you kidding me? Big news. Next week, they're throwing an announcement party. How thrilling, isn't it?" Sobs went out of my chest. It was yet another family gathering to which I had not received an invitation. "You're welcome, Aunt Lisa. Your notification is much appreciated." I sat on my bed, consumed by turmoil after hanging up. I wanted to push it aside and keep severing links with my poisonous family. Part of me, though, was certain that this might be my opportunity since I couldn't let go of the footage from the pawn shop. My parents' house was the place I ended up standing outside a week after that. There were cars parked along the street, and the sound of voices inside was amusing and lively. I stepped up to the front door, rang the bell, and took a deep breath. As soon as she laid eyes on me, Mom's smile quickly faded as she opened the door. "Isabella, what are you doing here?" Entering the living area, I pushed past her. When individuals began to notice me, the chit-chat subsided. It appeared as though Emily had seen a ghost as she stood in the room's middle with Richard. "What is she doing here?" Emily hissed in response. Dad's voice resounded all over the place. "Isabella, leave this house right now. This is not the place for you." Guests may be heard muttering in confusion. I observed the concerned looks exchanged between Richard's parents. Mom put on an act because she is always trying to save face. "Excuse me, everyone. Isabella and us have had to separate ways. She has grown extremely avaricious, and it has become disgraceful to our family." Outbursts of bickering filled the room. My parents' viewpoint was supported by some relatives, while I was protected by others. I got angry and shouted, "I have something to say." Slowly but surely, the room grew silent as every gaze landed on me. I looked across at Emily. "Sis, I am so happy for you with your pregnancy. However, I must inquire, why aren't you donning the tiara and ring that belonged to Grandma?" Emily flushed. Her mother-in-law raised her voice. "I haven't laid eyes on that stunning ring for quite some time. Now that you bring it up, how can I find it, Emily?" "I sent them for restoration." Emily stammered over her words. "It was time to clean them." With a leisurely motion, I drew out my phone and nodded. "That's interesting because I have a video here that tells a different story." As I linked my phone to the TV, Emily's expression turned pale. The pawn shop's security tape started playing. Emily was there, pawning the jewelry with her face as plain as day. What followed was the scene that sent shockwaves through the room, and enthralled Emily passionately kissing a man who was most certainly not Richard. As soon as the video started playing, the living room became a complete mess. As Richard faced Emily, his expression betrayed his anguish and fury. "Emily, could you tell me what I'm looking at? Just who is that guy?" He raised his voice in a booming voice. Emily sobbed uncontrollably, her mascara running down her cheeks. "I can explain." With an icy tone in her voice, Richard's mom rose to her feet. "I think we all deserve an explanation, Emily." A stern-faced man, Richard's father, raised his voice. "A paternity test seems necessary, without delay." As rumors spread and tempers rose, I crept out of the house under cover. My mission had been accomplished. I hadn't had a weight lifted off my shoulders in years, but that all changed when the truth came out. The entire scope of Emily's deceit was revealed during the subsequent weeks. I heard rumors in the family that she had been meeting up with her ex-boyfriend, the one with ties to the criminal underworld, in secret, all while Richard was sleeping. She drank from Richard's fountain of youth and pawned her valuables to settle his debts. The last straw were the paternity test findings. Her ex-boyfriend was the biological father, not Richard. Divorce papers were filed by Richard, who was understandably distraught. Claiming financial fraud and emotional harm, he sued Emily for a large amount. Emily was left to confront the fallout on her alone when her ex-boyfriend mysteriously disappeared after finding out she was pregnant. My parents, who had always held Emily in high regard, had to confront the truth about what she had done. In order to help Emily pay the compensation that Richard requested, they had to take out a sizable loan. They were left to pick up the pieces after their beloved child had fallen from grace. Suddenly, they began to accuse me of being responsible for everything. In an accusatory and bitter tone, my mom left a voicemail on my phone. "Isabella, are you content right now? You have made life unbearable for your sister. I hope you feel accomplished." I chose not to reply and instead erased the note. I was no longer vulnerable to the hurtful effects of their comments. To get my life in order, I went back to school, gave it my all, and concentrated on becoming the person I always imagined myself to be. My family and I have severed all ties of connection after I changed my email and phone numbers. The poisonous loop was subsequently shattered. On that fateful day 2 years ago, I uncovered Emily's lies. Professors and local art critics both gave me high marks for my capstone project, which helped me graduate with honors from art college. At the age of 23, I am currently employed at the city's Harmony Art Gallery. Being able to spend each day in the company of stunning artwork, lend a hand with exhibition curation, and plan events for emerging artists is an absolute dream job. Not only that, though, several collectors have taken an interest in my paintings, which has taken me by surprise and happiness. I've started painting in my spare time, but I still remember where I came from. As a hobby, I still like to draw designs for tattoos. It has evolved into a beloved pastime, serving as a bridge to my heritage and a constant reminder of my progress. The thought that tattoo magazines have included some of my designs makes me happy every time. Well, that's a convoluted story when it comes to my family. Some aunts and cousins stuck by me through the rough patches, and I've kept in touch with them. Try not to be affected by the family drama anymore, but they keep me updated. So far as I am aware, Emily has not left our parents' house. Raising her child alone is difficult for her because she is unemployed. Her parents are often telling her to get a job and go because they're having money problems too. From what I've heard, the arguments are regular and heated. Ever since that day, I have avoided communicating with my parents and Emily. They made an initial attempt to contact me via guilt-tripping messages and angry voicemails, but I was adamant about my decision to end our relationship. They gave up trying after a while. To turn things around, I've been seeing a fantastic man named Alex for almost a year now. At an art gallery event, I met this graphic designer. Not only is he understanding of my love for painting, but he is also nice and encouraging. One further step towards creating the life I desire, moving in together, is something we're discussing soon.